The creature had never stopped mid-charge before. Across 12 star systems, on 100 conquered worlds, the apex predator known as Curzon had become a whispered curse. Entire civilizations collapsed not because of its armies, because it didn't need them. Curzon was engineered for annihilation, muscle woven with reactive armor, 6-bladed limbs, a sensory crown capable of reading electromagnetic fear responses. It hunted not for food, but for dominance. And dominance was absolute. On the ash-colored plains of Viral, 9, the creature charged again, 30 tons of unstoppable momentum aimed directly at a group of fleeing bipeds. Humans. They were slow, soft, loud with panic. Perfect prey. Curzon's sensory crown flared as it locked onto their heartbeats, calculating the optimal kill pattern. It would impale the first two, crush the third, and let the rest scatter. Fear amplified the flavor of victory. Then something happened. At precisely 11 meters from impact, the creature's muscles seized, not from injury, not from hesitation, but from recognition. The charge slowed. The claws dug furrows into the ground. And for the first time in its recorded existence, the most lethal creature in space paused. Because it had seen humans before. Beginning the hunt. The coalition of unified species had not wanted humans involved. They were too new, too unpredictable, too primitive. When Curzon tore through the frontier systems, the coalition had deployed everything: plasma fleets, gravity mines, orbital bombardments. None of it worked. The creature adapted faster than weapons could recalibrate. Entire armadas were reduced to debris fields drifting silently through space. Desperation changed policy. That was how a single human battalion ended up on Viral, 9. Commander Elena Ward watched the battlefield from behind a shattered ridge, rifle steady, breath controlled. Her HUD flickered with threat indicators, all red, all screaming the same warning. Apex entity detected. Survival probability, 2.7%. She exhaled slowly. All right, she muttered. Let's make it interesting. The humans weren't here to win. Not in the coalition sense. They were here to teach. Curzon roared, a sound that vibrated through bone and soil alike, and charged the human line. Coalition observers watched remotely, some turning away, others recording what they assumed would be a brief, brutal slaughter. They didn't notice the humans weren't running blindly. They were leading the charge. Middle, the memory of fear. Curzon's mind was not simple. It remembered every battle, every adaptation, every species that had tried and failed to stop it. And buried deep within that memory was an anomaly. A red planet. Low gravity. Primitive structures. Humans. The first encounter had seemed laughable. Curzon had landed on the colony world expecting panic and collapse. Instead, it found resistance, uncoordinated at first, but relentless. They learned. Every time Curzon adapted, humans responded not with better armor, but with better ideas. When plasma failed, they used kinetics. When shields adapted, they overloaded them with synchronized EMP bursts. When brute force stopped working, they used traps. Pain followed. Loss followed. For the first time, Curzon had experienced damage that persisted. Worse, it had experienced anticipation. Humans predicted its movements. They baited it into environments designed not to kill it instantly, but to limit it. The apex predator had withdrawn that day, not defeated, but altered. Fear was new. On Viral, 9, as it skidded to a halt, those memories surged forward. The humans ahead weren't panicking anymore. They were spreading out, luring it into a wide semicircle. Curzon's sensory crown detected something worse than fear. Focus. Commander Ward raised her fist. The humans stopped running. Coalition observers erupted in confusion. Why have they halted? They're inside its kill radius. Are they surrendering? Ward's voice cut through the comms, calm and deadly. Phase 2. Now. The ground exploded. Buried charges, old, crude, but perfectly placed, detonated beneath Curzon's forward limbs. The creature roared as one bladed leg shattered, armor plates ripping free. It retaliated instantly, hurling biospines that sliced through air and flesh alike. Humans fell. Blood soaked the dust. And still, the humans advanced. They weren't trying to overwhelm it. They were bleeding it. Escalation. Humans don't flee. Curzon adapted fast, sealing wounds, rerouting muscle fibers. It lashed out, killing dozens in seconds. Coalition analysts predicted total human annihilation in under 4 minutes. Then the humans changed tactics again. Ward slammed her gauntlet against the detonator strapped to her chest. Cage it. From the sky, drop pods screamed down, not weapons but structures. Massive alloy pylons slammed into the ground around Curzon, projecting a lattice of gravitational distortion. The creature roared as its movements slowed, every step suddenly costing 10 times the energy. Humans swarmed, not with heavy weapons, with tools. Cutters, anchors, harpoons linked to ground winches. They weren't trying to kill it outright. They were pinning it, forcing it into a position it had never been forced into before. Helplessness. Coalition commanders watched in stunned silence as the apex predator, destroyer of fleets, was restrained by a species that had been spacefaring for less than 3 centuries. Curzon's fear response spiked. It understood now. Humans didn't fight to dominate immediately. They fought to change the battlefield itself. Turning point. The pause. With a surge of power, Curzon tore free from 2 anchors and prepared a final charge. If it could break the human line, the rest would scatter. Commander Ward stepped forward instead. She removed her helmet. The creature froze. Her heart rate was steady. Her eyes were locked on it, unblinking. "You remember us," she said softly, though she knew it couldn't understand her words. "Good." She raised her rifle, not to fire. Behind her, every surviving human did the same. Weapons lowered. No fear. No retreat. Just defiance. Curzon hesitated, sensory crown overloaded by conflicting data. This behavior made no sense. Prey didn't stand its ground after suffering such losses. Unless they weren't prey. Unless they were something else entirely. That pause, just half a second, was enough. Orbital fire lanced down from the sky. Not coalition plasma. Human rail strikes. Focused. Precise. Calculated. The beams punched through weakened armor, driving Curzon to its knees. The creature screamed as systems failed, regeneration overwhelmed by sustained damage. For the first time in its existence, the apex predator fell, ending a new rule of fear. Curzon did not die that day. The humans made sure of that. Instead, they restrained it completely, sealing it within a containment field that nullified its adaptations. Coalition scientists argued, demanded execution, feared retaliation. Commander Ward shut them down with a single sentence. You kill it, it becomes a legend. You keep it alive, it becomes a lesson. The coalition listened. Across the galaxy, the story spread, not of humanity's firepower, but of their refusal to break. Species that once trembled at the mention of Curzon now whispered a different truth. The most lethal creature in space had paused. Not because it was wounded, not because it was outgunned, but because it remembered what humans did when fear was no longer an option. They adapted, they endured, and they taught the galaxy a terrifying new rule.